Is our ecological footprint even bigger than reported?
Could Earth Overshoot Day really be long before August 1st?
Our goose may be cooked even faster and sooner than we thought.
That plus are hotter summers and more wildfires the new normal?
All on this episode of the GrowthBusters podcast.
Calling. Call the GrowthBusters. Whoa.
Welcome to the GrowthBusters podcast, and thanks for joining us on our journey to sustainability. On a full planet, we're doing our best to stop expanding the scale of the human enterprise. That means ending the growth of our numbers and our economy, and contracting them back to a sustainable level. Of course, that includes exploring ways to shrink our own individual footprints, as well as getting our system into a recovery program from growth addiction. I'm Dave Gardner. I directed the documentary GrowthBusters Hooked on Growth, and I'm joined by Grace Stark, a fairly recent environmental policy graduate from Towson University and board member of the Green Cities Coalition here in Colorado Springs. Now, besides following this podcast, you can sign up for our email updates at growthbusters.org. You can also become a member of GrowthBusters, support this nonprofit project, and get a 15% discount on t-shirts, note cards, small family stickers, and the GrowthBusters documentary. These are all really excellent growth-busting tools, by the way. We're not in this to make any money. In fact, we're a scrappy little nonprofit, so your support is appreciated and helps keep this podcast going. Okay, so first thing we do is listener feedback. We really like to get listener feedback, so we encourage you to respond to what you hear on this podcast, either with a comment on our Facebook page or a tweet to us or a comment on the GrowthBusters website on the page for this episode. So looking at feedback, first of all, there was a question that I posed, you'll remember this, Grace, during our plastics discussion in episode 17, and the question was, what is the one single-use disposable plastic item that we actually want to see used more instead of less? And of course, we gave the answer in that podcast, and the answer was condoms, because contraception is a really excellent way to avoid unwanted pregnancies and plan for smaller families, something that we want to do to get human population contracting down toward a sustainable level, because 7.6 billion, in case you hadn't checked lately, is not a sustainable number on the planet. But Grace, I also posed the question on Twitter and Facebook, so I didn't give away the answer, and so I invited people who hadn't yet listened to that episode to offer their responses, and we didn't get a huge number of responses back, but I did want to give a shout-out today to those who were quick to respond with the right answer, so I want to thank at StuntCat for shouting out condoms right away after that tweet went out, and then Bonaire Volt also contributed the answer condoms, but went on to respond, "This is great. I was glad to see this. I've listened to enough GrowthBusters podcasts to know. Plus, as an adopted kid, besides condom use, adoption is something I do support rather than having kids. At my church, sure, some families have 5 to 10 of their own. Can't stop that, but many do adopt rather than have." And then she also went on to write, I'm assuming it's a she, but who knows? One piece of education is that parents with means, that is, good jobs, etc., that think they can raise many kids who will become self-sufficient is troubling. In church, parents say, God will guide, and many times it works, but not always. A good job doesn't necessarily mean have 9 kids. So I thought that was an interesting perspective.
No, that is interesting, and it's good to hear it from someone who's actually knows families who do have a large number of children and can speak from, experience in that. So
yeah, and I don't know, I would respond that there's nothing we can do to stop families who want to have 9 or 10 kids from having 9 or 10 kids. All we can do is continue to try to educate people and raise awareness of the fact that we have too many people on the planet already, and so that the most responsible decision you can make, especially if you want your children to have a decent chance at living a good life on this one planet that we have, is for us to start making decisions to have fewer children rather than more. And then just hope people do the right thing.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Let's see. We also heard from Rose Lee. I might have mistyped that. Maybe it was Rosalie. Great show, and I enjoyed the question. At least using condoms doesn't spread hormones through our sewage and waterway.